What's going on, my PT peeps? One Eyebrow back to talk about Stranger Things. Obviously, spoiler warning for all things Stranger Things, but we're going to talk about Vecna and how, for me, it was kind of disappointing to find out some of the information that we found out in the final episode, of the first part. We're going to get 2 more episodes in July for the recent season, the latest season of Stranger Things, but we're going to talk about Vecna, Henry Creel, and Number One, which are all the same person. And to me, it was kind of disappointing to find out that this guy is just all the same person. So Vecna is the person in the Upside Down. Number One, we find out, is the same person. He was sent into the Upside Down by 11, and Henry Creel is the same person. So to me, it's just a kid that has powers, and hopefully it's elaborated on and just explored even further in the final 2 episodes coming up in July. But it's kind of annoying that this guy just had all these powers and it wasn't really explained where he got them from. He just moved here with his family. He was basically being controlled and manipulated and, watered down because he couldn't use his powers. He had a device in his neck. Wouldn't it be in your brain? But it was in his neck because it's easier to remove. And 11 removed the device, and I guess this was his plan all along, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see more of the story where it came from season 1, and it's really cool when you go back and tell the story from a different perspective and backtrack a little bit to explain things further. And it's always good to have those Easter eggs, callbacks, connections. It's just a good thing, good storytelling in my opinion. But the fact that this guy just was a regular guy is kind of weird. And 11 was one of his many kids because they took the DNA from one to make the rest of them. And I'm just interested to see where this goes, and I'm excited for it. And don't get me wrong, I love Stranger Things, but I was disappointed that this guy, which kind of makes sense if you think about it, they were setting it up. He's creepy. He was talking about Number One, and it just makes sense on multiple levels, but it's also kind of a letdown that he is the mastermind. Well, he's Vecna. He's not the mind flayer. He's not the person controlling things in the Upside Down. And it's a cool showdown that we're going to most likely see again in the final 2 episodes of this season, and then in the final season if he survives. And the CGI, I think, overall looks really great of young 11 going against Number One, because again, it's young 11. She's just getting her powers. There are times that the CGI looks kind of rough and it's like a digital deep fake that you're like, it looks a little off. But overall, I think is a good job. What did you think, though? Let me know your thoughts. Post your comments below. Were you kind of let down about the big reveal that Number One is Vecna and Henry Creel? I alone in thinking like this. Like, I was just like watching it. I was like, that's kind of weak. Come on. They just took the easy way out with it, especially how he just had powers. He didn't, I don't know, it's not explained yet, and hopefully it is. He's in this house, in the Creel house, the stuff with the clock and music, which is kind of a weird, weakness to have. But again, hopefully it's explained. And the last 2 episodes are going to basically be 4 episodes, because I think it's an hour and a half and then 2.5 hours, the final episode of this season. So we'll have to see if it's further explained. And to me, it needs to be, because he just has powers and he develops them. I'm hoping it's the Mind Flayer or some other thing in the Upside Down that's controlling him or working with him. I mean, he had an admiration for Black Widow spiders. We didn't see him get bit by a spider, but that would have been more of an explanation than he just had powers and he developed them himself. And his ideology is that people are terrible and the constructs of time and stuff. Like, it's just one of those things that the villains just don't like the way the world is, so he's going to change them. And he was hoping that he would have 11 by his side to recreate the world. And luckily, 11 sent him packing and was like, peace, you're out of here. But they did the old 11 has to struggle against the stronger person. But if one was so strong, why was 11 able to send him into the Upside Down? And it's kind of weird, like, did he have sex with all these women, or did he just have in vitro fertilization, or what happened with this? It was just weird to think of. He just fathered all these kids because of the scientists and doctors in this facility. But he beats up 11, and it's the old thing where the hero or good guy struggles against the villain to turn the tides against the villain. And the villain, does the monologue and the just telling the story of where he came from. But ultimately, 11's going to have to go against 1 in hopefully an epic showdown. And again, I'm not here to pick on it and break it down and really put it down, but I'm here just discussing it. Again, it's just weird to think about how all these kids were created and made and born if you start thinking about it. And it's science fiction. And I know some people are talking about how there's a plot hole with 11 and her talking in the first season compared to now when they go back. I'm really not concerned about that. The other thing is, wasn't there another girl that had powers in, I want to say, the second season? Where did she come from? Is there another facility? Like, is that a plot hole too? Am I wrong in thinking that? But either way, they really set up the fact that 11 has her powers. It's cool to see the prior cast coming back around again, and it makes sense. I want to see the final 2 episodes be epic and really tie things together for the final season. That's our next season. But ultimately, this guy is Vecna, Henry Creel, and number 1, which is a lot. And I've seen all these articles talking about Stranger Things. To me, 11 did not create the Upside Down. She just opened up the portal to send Vecna into the portal. That she somehow opened up. Like, she struggled to use her powers. Like, she was struggling to use her basic powers. Then all of a sudden, she's just able to throw this guy into a portal, into a dimension of the Upside Down, which is pretty crazy and just super quick for her to struggle with powers, and then boom, and then sends him into the Upside Down. And why wasn't he ripped apart? Like, why was he just teleported into, or sent, or whatever you want to call it, into the Upside Down and not destroyed? Like, what is she actually doing here to send him into it? And I don't know. It's just one of those weird things that it really needs to be explained. I think they will explain it. I have faith in the writers for this series. But again, as we're approaching the final season, stuff's got to get wrapped up, and more shows struggle with final seasons how to wrap things up. Like, what is this? I know it's another dimension and it's the Upside Down, but what's up with the lightning? Why is he being ripped apart, and who is doing it? Is it the Mind Flayer? I'm guessing, right? Or is there someone else that we haven't seen that will be the true big bad that we have to defeat in the final season? Like, why is he being ripped apart by the lightning? What is going on here? What's the cause for this? Like, he was just sent into here by 11, and all of a sudden it's all this stuff flying at him, and he's not being destroyed. He's just having his skin ripped apart. Like, why? What is the point of that too? Like, why not just destroy him and he's gone? Well, because we wouldn't have Vecna, and we wouldn't have the bad for this season, the villain. Will we see Vecna survive this season and go into the final season when we never really saw a carryover villain as much as we saw we haven't really had much carryover from stuff. And I think it's all going to come together in the final season, but it's a reveal, and again, it's CGI and it looks okay, but the reveal of this guy being this guy, it's kind of like, man, really? Okay, all right. But I do feel like Eddie is going to play the guitar to get Nancy out of the Upside Down, because music is the weakness. You see that Henry, Vecna, and number 1 are all the same person. So it's kind of cool. It's coming together, and it's kind of sad that we're approaching the final season of a great show. But what do you think, though? What do you think of this? What do you make of the big reveal that we saw in the first part, I guess, mid-season finale? And what do you think of just Henry having powers, going to a coma, going to this facility, getting a tattoo on his arm, creating all these children, and scientists trying to control his powers? Why didn't you just get rid of Henry? Like, why didn't you just get rid of number 1? You can't control him. He's too powerful, But that's the story so far. I was just kind of discussing it and thinking about it. So I was like, I'll make a video. Again, I'm not here to put the show down. I really enjoy Stranger Things, but just makes you go, really? That's what they went with this? It just seems to me like an easy way out of connecting all this stuff It's not the final season. We're getting towards the final season. That's next season, when we're probably going to have a major time jump. Vecna will probably be defeated, and then we'll see what happens in the final season. But I truly want to know your thoughts, guys, and opinions of Stranger Things. What do you think of the story so far? What's your favorite season? Are you excited to see where it goes? I love Stranger Things, but like, share, subscribe, support the PT channel when you can, become a patron, a member. Either way, we truly appreciate all love and support. Stay safe, and as always, tell them Daryl.